I'm not gonna lie. I completely forgot that I was gonna record a review. Like I went out to make myself a sandwich here. Yeah, I'm using gluten-free raisin bread with sunflower seed butter on it. I have a weird snacking habit. And then I walked past to like go sit down to watch another movie. And I saw my camera was on, ready to record, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was gonna record a review." So, The Wicker Man. There's no DVD in there because it's sitting by the TV. But this is one I have not seen in a while. And no, it's not the fucking Nicolas Cage one with the bees. I did see that. I think that came out in like 2006 or something. I saw it when it came out. It's a wild movie. I'd love to rewatch it actually. I'd love to follow this up with it, but it's unfortunately nowhere online, and I don't have it on. I mean, it's rentable, but I just don't feel like throwing $4 or $5 at it. And I don't own it. I don't think, but I'm not around my movie collection anyways. Anyway, all right. So The Wicker Man. This is kind of an infamous film. It's referred to as the Citizen Kane of horror films by Cinefantastique, whoever the fuck that is. So, now, this is a movie I've seen before, of course, but I'd only ever seen it one time. And the only thing I'd remembered about it, spoilers obviously, was the ending, of course, with a title like that, and especially the poster. I mean, look at this. Look at this fucking poster on the front. The dude is in the Wicker Man, and it's on fire. Like, how do we think this is going to end with this title, this poster? Look at him. He's like, hey, let me out. This is hilarious to me. I mean, what? I guess everyone's just so familiar with what happens, but as I said, just being called the Wicker Man. Now, I'm sure that there's all sorts of videos online discussing the real meaning of it and, whatnot. But I'm just going to give you my layman's version of events here. Just, I don't get any of the symbolisms or anything. And the only other thing I remember about the movie is that it had a very odd atmosphere to it. Like a very kind of eerie, unsettling, fish out of water atmosphere to it. Upon this rewatch, this is a beloved film. It has a 7.5 on IMDb, and it is considered a classic horror film. And I even watched the director's cut, or the whatever the extended cut as they call it on here. Which this DVD is horrid looking. And it was funny because I was talking to my friend Brandon about this a little bit while I was watching it, and he's like, "Oh, you're watching the one on Netflix?" And then I look on the Netflix one, and it's in HD, and this DVD looks like shit. I guess I should have watched that version. Damn, I'm gonna actually have to throw the Netflix version on to see how that one looks in comparison. But I was like, wow, this movie looks terrible. Just terrible. Anyway, so upon my rewatch, I'm going to have to be in the minority here and say that I really didn't care for this movie all that much. I found it like, is it an odd movie? Yes. Is it semi unsettling just because of how odd it is? Sure, I guess. But I wasn't really engaged. I wasn't really invested in anything. And maybe because the movie looked like shit, I wasn't blown away by its aesthetics. The atmosphere for me this time around, I remember that was like my big thing. Like, oh my God, atmosphere. This time I didn't feel the atmosphere as much. It was really weird when I was watching it. I was just like, I felt like, I felt different the first time I watched this. I was expecting something totally different. 70% of this movie is singing and nudity. Like, legit. I couldn't believe how much singing and nudity was in this film. That's almost the entire flick. We have this cop I didn't even take notes because I was just like sitting there and I was like, okay. So there's a cop looking for a young girl on an island. He goes over there. Everyone is trying to cover it up. He's trying to get to the bottom of this shit. And he keeps just walking up on naked women, people fucking in the park, a bunch of people singing Christopher Lee in a kilt, singing songs. There must be 10 songs sung in this film, and they're like 3-4 minutes each. So there's like 30-40 minutes of the movie right there. And it's not a very long movie. It's only a 90-minute movie. And every 5 minutes you're seeing 1 to 10 naked girls on screen. I'm not complaining, obviously. That's never going to complain about seeing naked women. And a lot of them are very attractive and they have great bodies. So yeah, I mean, that's fine and all. But what does it do for me outside of, it's aesthetically pleasing to the eyes? Like, oh, there's pretty young, hot chicks, like whatever. I'm all about that being inserted in films. I've talked about this a million times. That's what makes us great slasher movie. That's what makes any film better, as long as the film is good itself. And I'm not saying it's a bad film. It's not. Clearly, I mean, who the fuck am I to say that a classic isn't a classic? I would never ever do that. But I can't honestly sit here and tell you differently if my feelings don't match up with the norm. And they just didn't. I found myself rather bored. I found myself, kind of hoping for it to end. Like, wow, this is it? This is the Wicker Man? Interesting. I just was expecting a much better film. I haven't seen this movie in 10, 15 years. And it's been a long, long time since I've seen it. And that was the first time I'd ever seen it. I've only seen this twice now. And it's just, I don't know, I wasn't connected to anything, and the atmosphere wasn't winning me over enough to justify my lack of interest. Like, it's a detective film, like it's a missing persons film, and he's walking around in this place that it's on an island, and everyone's against him, and they set him up in the end, and he gets taken away. And that part's cool. Like, this is all just some elaborate ruse to get him there and all this. I feel like they could have just, hit him over the head as soon as he got there. Like, why even let him run around? What's the point? Maybe just to confirm who he is, whatever. But they scouted him. They wanted him specifically. They said he was a virgin. Dude's like 50. Like, really? Wow, okay. I mean, I guess he's really committed. He's devout to his religion. And never got married or something. So, but then, I feel more, I mean, of course, human being, and he doesn't deserve it at all. So I feel terrible for the guy, but I also feel terrible for all the fucking animals, the goats and whatnot, that are getting burned alive, and they're burned alive. What a terrible, terrible way to die. Now, the reason that I watched this was because my father, I just got him to watch Midsommar, which was kind of a risk because I know my dad doesn't like weird movies. And now I was like, oh, well, the acting's really good, and my dad's really into acting, and and that's not like the weirdest film by any means, but for him, that's a real bizarre flick. But he couldn't shut it off. He sat there and he watched the whole thing till like midnight, which is late for him. And at the end, he was just like, man, I got to take a break from movies like this. I'm just fucking depressed. He woke up in the morning, was like, I had horrible nightmares all night. Like, just thinking like I was, in that movie, and I was being sacrificed in the end and all of that. But after I had watched that, I knew that this movie, of course, was the big comparison film for Midsommar. And people are, oh, it's very Wicker Man. I mean, of all the films that you're going to compare it to, this does make the most sense, obviously. Fish out of water, cult, sacrifice, whatnot. So that absolutely does make sense. But I wanted to see the comparisons. And while I, get it. They're two completely different movies. I mean, there are some similarities. There's no doubt about it, but that's more of like inspiration than somebody maybe saying something along the lines of, "Oh, that's a ripoff," or something along. Come on, not even close. Not even they're not even similar. And Midsommar is far superior to me. I mean, far far superior to me. Now that's a controversial opinion, I'm sure, with this being a beloved classic, but not for me. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say. I mean, the only other similarities I saw between that and Midsommar was, the pictures up on the wall of all the girls in the past, and which of course reminds me of the May Queen. The sacrifice at the end, burning of that, and being in a costume, a bear outfit, which is like the one Nicolas Cage wore in the Wicker Man remake. So there's some obvious nods there, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, of course, I might be missing something off the top of my head, and yeah, I mean, when it's just, and I think another thing is none of the songs appealed to me. Like, I didn't like any of the songs. I wasn't interested in any of the music. So when the songs were playing, I was just kind of like, all right, like, let's get past this song. I don't like it. It's not even, because there's been plenty of movies where the kind of music in it isn't exactly what I would listen to on my own. I'm not going to like throw it on in the car. But it's catchy enough. It fits the tone of the film enough that I actually like it during the film. You know? And this one, while it fits the tone of the film for sure, because it is kind of the film, it's the tone of the film is a bunch of music. So, of course, that would be the setting of the tone. I just wasn't into it, nor was I really into the characters. I didn't really attach myself to the cop. I didn't attach myself to anybody else. We don't spend any time with anyone else, nor are these likable characters. None of them are likable characters outside of maybe Christopher Lee. Just because he's Christopher Lee, I would like him. But yeah, man, I really just didn't enjoy this, which is shocking to me. Like, I almost feel like I need to fucking watch it again, but I literally just finished it like 5 minutes ago. And I mean, to the point where I literally got up and went out to make a sandwich as I put the camera up. And when I came back, completely forgot that I was even going to do a review on it, because it had already pretty much left my mind by that point in the 5 minutes it took me to make this sandwich. So, yeah, this is going to be a divisive opinion here for sure. And that's fine with me. I mean, I'm always fine with someone disagreeing with my opinion. It's not going to change my opinion in the slightest. But I'm surprised is really what it comes down to. I'm just surprised. But you know what? I hate Rosemary's Baby. I hate Scream. There's definitely, classics that I'm not a fan of. And, I've talked out against them enough. And I guess here's another one that I will be talking out. Not... I'm not going to sit there and bash this movie. You like it, that's always great, whatnot. But now, from now on, I've always talked, rather highly of this film, but not no more. I think that was my brother inviting me to a game, so I'm going to go do that. So, adios.